is the answer to that?
Well, they're not. Every employee that has access to the IRS system are employees that were properly vetted, had the proper clearance, and moving forward. That is not Elon Musk right now. The White House has hired an employee that is specifically working with Doge, but they have all the clearances, they have the access they need to gain the files, and then they're simply bringing the data to Doge as a whole and saying this is where we're at. When we right now estimate somewhere between 200 and 300 billion dollars of missed payments from the IRS, that's a huge gaping hole. And by the way, that is what they admit to having missed payments on. And so if they, and I've always said this, Dana, if you can show that you're doing 200 to 300 in missed payments, why can't you identify where it's coming from? And what Elon is doing and his team at Doge is saying, yeah, well, let's identify them and stop it. It's that simple.
Yeah, the 4.7 trillion that Jackie was reporting there and the line that was left blank, do you have confidence that we'll find out in the end that that was going to the appropriate place or not?
Yeah,
4.7 trillion is huge.
Yeah, but one thing about a dollar bill is it's always traceable, because this wasn't a dollar in cash. This was a dollar that was transferred from one account to another account to another account. Eventually, you can find the path that it goes down. It's like tracking. You can track it down eventually and get to it. Now, obviously, they did this on purpose. They didn't want a line item and tell you exactly where it's at. So I'm sure at the end of the trail with 4.7 trillion, which you can't even fathom that, there's going to be a lot of fraud and waste and abuse there. But this is what President Trump brought to the American people. He said he was going to drain the swamp. He said he was going to get government working for the people again. He said he was going to expose the face for the fraud and abuse, and that's exactly what he's doing. And by the way, he brought on the most successful CEO in our lifetime to be the consultant, which keep in mind, Bill, companies, corporations all over the world always hire consultants, because when they come in, they look at it from an unbiased perspective, and they just simply look at the numbers. When you're a business owner, you get emotionally involved in things. When you're a politician, it could be your pet project that you don't want to get rid of, but that doesn't mean it's right for the American taxpayer.
Let's switch topics just quickly, because we led the show with, of course, the plane flipping upside down in Toronto on that landing. Here's Representative Swalwell yesterday. He said, since 2009, how many American airliners crashed before Trump came into office? 0. When does Trump start taking responsibility for the next plane crash? And then Pete Buttigieg, the former Secretary of Transportation, said the flying public needs answers. How many FAA personnel were just fired? What positions and why? What do you make of that?
Well, first of all, Pete Buttigieg, who was a mayor, and that was his only qualification, has no right to say anything. Remember, he had 90% of the workforce working from home and didn't require them to come to the office, including himself. And so right now you have Sean Duffy, who is doing his absolute best to bring accountability back to the agency. But I do want to make a point. The FAA has 45,000 employees. 400 was laid off, and every one of these were in their probation period. Not one critical person was let go. And Buttigieg knows that, but he doesn't care to do it. And as far as Swalwell says, man, a guy who dated Fang Fang, that was a Chinese spy, has no room to say anything about anybody. He's just reckless and trying to get attention because he knows his time has passed.
Senator, thanks for coming back. Mark Wayne Mullen, Republican from Oklahoma. More to come on all that, okay? You bet. Sean Hannity has got the interview tonight with President Trump and Elon Musk together the entire hour. Here's a preview of them talking about the Democrats' reaction to the current administration. Watch here.
Now you're going to rescue astronauts. And now, and again, you do all of this. I would think liberals would love the fact that you have the biggest electric vehicle company in the world.
Yeah, I mean, I used to be adored by the left, you know.
Yeah, not anymore.
Less so these days.
You killed that, huh?
I mean, less so.
I really didn't.
Well, I mean, this whole sort of like, you know, they call it like Trump derangement syndrome. Yeah. And I don't, you don't realize how real this is until like you can't reason with people.
She has her role, I have my role. And throughout this entire ordeal, which I think no American should have to go through, I didn't do anything wrong. I stood focused on what I was elected to do.
So the mayor is defiant. Governor Kathy Hochul is weighing the possibility of removing him from office. That's the reports we're getting now. Who the governor is meeting with in New York City today. That's intriguing. Dana? And
freezing weather is hampering the response to the devastating floods in the southeast. How emergency crews are trying to adapt there.
Meanwhile, Democrats still struggling to find a way forward. What the new DNC chair is saying about the party's current struggles.
So many parts of our coalition left us this last election cycle. That's a damning indictment on the Democratic Party. We got to do a better job.
News from last hour. Trump administration holding talks with Russia on ending Moscow's invasion of Ukraine. This is out of Saudi Arabia now. You've got Marco Rubio, Mike Waltz, Special Envoy Stephen Witkoff. They say a peace deal right now is long overdue.
We're going to appoint a high-level team from our end to help negotiate and work through the end of the conflict in Ukraine in a way that's enduring and acceptable to all the parties engaged.
Month after month after month in the killing fields of eastern and southern Ukraine is unacceptable. It is not in the interest of either country. It's not in the interest of the world, and certainly not in the interest of the United States and Europe. So all of those things will drive the negotiations going forward.
So a lot of things to point out here. Just to repeat there, NATO membership said to be unacceptable by Michael Waltz, also saying that Russian-controlled parts of the country are irrevocably lost. In addition, the president of Egypt announced, I guess about 2 hours ago, that he was flying to Saudi Arabia, so maybe these talks only not just continue, but maybe expand too. So stay tuned for more on that as we get it. All right, Dana.
And today, Governor Hochul will meet with New York City leaders as she weighs the fate of embattled Mayor Eric Adams. Hochul announced the meeting hours after 4 of Adams' top deputies resigned. The cover of the New York Post today, fall from Gracie. Of course, they're always great. Alexis McAdams is outside the governor's New York City office with more. Hi, Alexis.
Hey, Dana, a big news day here in the Big Apple. The New York Governor, Kathy Hochul, has not said she's going to remove Mayor Eric Adams, but hey, she says she's looking at next steps during these meetings today, so that's why we're outside of her office, hoping we can get a question in, so we'll see what happens. Take a look, though. This is that latest statement coming in from the governor herself, talking about what would happen next. She says, I recognize the immense responsibility I hold as governor and the constitutional powers granted to this office. In the 235 years of New York State history, these powers have never been utilized to remove a duly elected mayor. Overturning the will of the voters is a serious step that should not be taken lightly. Calls to remove Mayor Adams have been getting louder. Check this out. That's just some of what we saw at City Hall yesterday. The crowd calling for Adams to be removed, saying he's been compromised. This comes as allegations swirl here in New York City. The mayor accused of making a deal with the Justice Department to drop his criminal case, only if he would help the Trump administration enforce their immigration policies. Adams was just on Fox and Friends and said he never made any type of deal, pushing back, talking about the months of what he says was prosecution based on politics.
My family went through the level of pain and uncertainty that no family should ever go through. But I never lost my faith. Never surrendered. And that's my message to you.
And since the DOJ asked a judge to drop the charges against Adams, there's been fallout. Just this week, 4 deputy mayors that are on your screen resigned following top DOJ officials that stepped down last week. So back out here live, we're going to continue to keep a very close eye on this. So if Adams is forced to leave or resign from office, public advocate Jumaane Williams would take his place as acting mayor until there would be a special election or general election would be held. We also know there's a status update and a status hearing tomorrow for the mayor on his criminal case. We'll keep you posted.
All right, Alexis, you've got a big job today keeping track of all that. Thank you.
That's right.
We just landed on a plane crash. It's upside down.
Okay, 80 people evacuating that plane. Remarkable. Just amazing to watch this miracle of survival. And again, as you watch this video here, which is brand new to us here at the Fox News Channel, it's really the best view of all this. Right side of that plane, critical. to study. Matthew Buckley's an F-18 fighter pilot, former commercial airline pilot. Sir, good morning to you. Your call sign is Wiz, so let's go ahead and tap into your big brain. Thanks for being here, okay? We'll run the video again. I think the focus is on the right side of the plane. You can tell us yes or no or why. And I just want to quote one of the people on board, said the landing was very forceful. What do you see, Wiz?
Well, Bill, in aviation, we have a saying, any landing you can walk away from is a good landing. Well, this was not a good landing. The last flight data that I've seen has an 1,100 foot per minute rate of descent. Landing the F-18 Hornet aboard the aircraft carrier was about an 800 foot per minute rate of descent. And those aircraft are designed to slam aboard the boat. This is an incredibly steep rate of descent for that type of aircraft, coupled with gusty conditions anywhere from 25 to 40 knots, and you got a recipe for disaster.
Well, so you're saying as a former F-18 pilot, your rate of descent would be much less than what you observed from the data from this plane that you know of?
Absolutely, Bill, and if you've ever seen a carrier landing, we maintain a constant angle of attack. Airliners, as they come in to land in close, they pull back on the nose, reduce the power, and they do what is called a flare. When you look at this video, there really wasn't that much of a flare going on, and you can see the right wing, the right main landing gear hit really hard and more or less shear off, and then that's when you start to get the tumbling.
Well, I mentioned a few moments ago, the CRJ series, I think, is one of the reasons why air travel continues to be more popular. You know, the 700, the 800, the 900, they keep on getting better, too. I don't know if you agree with that or not, but there were some experts on the air last night saying that this plane has gotten better and better with each iteration. One gentleman suggested that the seats on this plane can withstand 16 Gs. Does that sound like something that you can relate to?
Bill and Dana, as you know, air travel is incredibly safe. It's more dangerous driving to and from the airport. So the CRJ is an incredibly safe aircraft. It all depends on who's sitting in the front, doesn't it? Right? The air crew. Endeavor Air, you know, a lot of my Delta buddies blowing up my phone with, hey, it says Delta Connection underneath there. These aren't Delta pilots. Remember, a lot of these regional crews are building their hours to go fly for what we call the main line, Delta, FedEx, American, United. So they're a little less experienced, and when you get into some varsity or sporty conditions like gusty winds and a pretty steep landing like disaster. Yeah. When in doubt, go around, right? You have the gas. If this landing is looking a little sporty, go to full power and try it again.
Got it. Let me just pop one more question at you. Put on screen, guys, the last incidents that we have seen. You've got that mid-air collision in Washington, D.C. You got the plane crash in the Philadelphia suburbs. You got that crash in Alaska, the plane in Vegas with the Motley Crue singer jet, and then this Delta regional jet flipping in Toronto. We had gone so long without any talk of any incident. You talk to a lot of people. What's going on?
Well, Bill, you forgot to. We had an F-18 Hornet at Naval Air Station North Island in Coronado last week, right? Both pilots ejected safely. And then about 3 or 4 weeks ago, we had an F-35 up at Eielson Air Force Base where the pilots successfully ejected. What's sad, Bill, is these are all kind of happening close together. If we look at these in a vacuum and spread them out, it would be a quick blurb in the news and on to the next thing. But there's no rhyme or reason to this, Bill, but you know, it's very interesting that they're all happening together. Each one of the ones that I just laid out and you just laid out has specific causes, and we call them links in a chain. If you take one of the links in this chain out, you don't have that mishap. And we've kind of pieced together some of that stuff here. The DC crash, if the helo crew had done a better job with some things, none of these things would have happened. But if you spread these out, it wouldn't be hitting the American public as it is right now. But
appreciate you. Yeah, Wiz, thanks. Your call sign is Wiz. Appreciate your analysis today. Matthew Buckley, pilot out of Boca Raton.
Thanks, Bill.
Thank you.
You got it. God bless.
From the top of my stairs, you could just hear it sound like the ocean. We just gotta wait, you know, and let it recede, I guess, but I don't see where it's going.
Tennessee and Kentucky still reeling from deadly floods and now bracing for freezing temperatures. We're going to go live to the devastated region next. Plus, a key ruling coming any minute now. A federal judge is set to decide on a request to block Elon Musk and Doge from accessing federal data and firing workers. Constitutional law attorney Jonathan Turley breaks down the case next.
Country that's not great for the folks in Tennessee and Kentucky. Parts of the Tennessee Valley underwater. Powerful storm caused torrential rain and deadly flooding. And now you've got a winter storm sweeping across the central part of the country. Arctic chill complicating recovery efforts. From Reeves, Tennessee, again today, Jonathan Sari. Toughing it out there northeast of Memphis. And is it any better today, Jonathan? Hello.
Good morning to you, Bill. Well, the floodwaters are going down, but now emergency managers are warning about bitterly cold temperatures. Today, Governor Bill Lee will be surveying storm damage in several parts of Tennessee, including where I am, and also he's scheduled to stop in Clarksville, about 100 miles to the east of me. Both areas significantly affected by flooding over the weekend. The governor will be meeting with storm survivors and local officials. And while discussing recovery from the floods, officials in Tennessee and neighboring Kentucky are also keeping a close watch on cold temperatures and snow in this week's forecast.
What this means is water that's out there, we still have a lot, can freeze. We're going to see black ice in different places during both the days and the nights and how cold it's going to get. And remember, the extra snow we're going to get.
As floodwaters slowly recede here in Reeves, Tennessee, some residents are already getting their electricity restored and returning to their homes. Many roads in the area are still cut off, but the cleanup, Bill, is well underway. Back to you.
I'm going to take a lot. Jonathan, thanks for being on the ground there today, yet again in Tennessee. Thank you, Dana.
And we are awaiting a decision from a federal judge on a request to block Elon Musk and Doge from accessing data at several federal agencies or from firing workers there. She's set to rule this morning. And joining us now is Fox News contributor Jonathan Turley, a constitutional law attorney and a professor at George Washington University. President Trump's likely to win these cases, but the Democrats are like, it's the only card they have to play, so they're taking it to the courts.
I agree, Dana. I mean, this is a level of denial that borders on delusion. I mean, this is a person who was elected by the majority of voters on a platform to reduce the size of government and to root out waste. Well, you got to look at the books. You got to look at the receipts. You need to have designated people go in there and take a look at where this money's going. Now, a trial judge can certainly try to stop that, but that judge will be quickly reversed, in my view. He is well within his Article 2 powers.
Right. So I guess we'll wait to see on that. But the other thing is, you think that Judge Chukin, who knows Trump from other cases, one of the things judges don't want to do is they don't want to be reversed.
That's right. I mean, she has received a great deal of criticism about her handling of the Trump case, and also a statement she made before she was given that case about President Trump. I don't know how really that impacts her. I think the greatest weight on her shoulders is the fact that, in my view, the constitutional lines here are clear. He must have this authority as the head of the executive branch. And for a court to effectively micromanage that authority really runs against centuries of precedent.
Okay, I want to also ask you about this because you have a new column out. Let me show you the headline here. Vance rightly excoriates Europe. What values are we defending? And then let me just read something from him, because this is based on his speech that he gave last week. He said, even if you disagree with me substantively, these institutions have revealed themselves to be so brittle. AfD is in second place in Germany. The far right keeps getting closer in France. Wake up. And he gave a speech in which he said, the values that we share in free speech are the ones that are at risk if they don't change things. And you want to defend him, so let me give you a chance to do that.
It was a historic speech by Vice President Vance. You know, in 1963, John F. Kennedy went to Berlin to say, I'm a Berliner, to say that he was going to stand with the rights of free speech and other rights of those behind the Iron Curtain. Vance went, in this case, to Munich and said, I am an American. And as an American, I will fight for free speech. And he confronted our allies and saying, you know, you can't claim to be defending democracy when you are eviscerating the very right that defines us. And I wrote a book recently called The Indispensable Right, and it talks about Germany, the United Kingdom, and our other allies, where free speech is in a free fall. And so this was a very welcome speech for the free speech community, not just the United States, but in Europe. And I'm hearing from a lot of my colleagues in Europe saying that this was a true Churchillian moment for the free speech community.
What did you make of CBS Sunday show, Margaret Brennan, the host, suggesting that it was free speech that basically caused the genocide of the Jews?
Well, I almost spit out my coffee when I heard that line, because, of course, the first thing that the Nazis did was to crack down on free speech, to deny it. Censorship is the harbinger of authoritarianism. And I'm not too sure what point she was making, but the Nazis knew free speech was the enemy of totalitarian rule. So the idea that somehow free speech invites fascism is an old saw used by the anti-free speech movement, particularly in Germany. But take a look at Germany. They've had a robust censorship system since World War II. The neo-Nazi movement is flourishing. But a recent poll shows that only 17% of Germans feel comfortable stating their views in public.
Right.
They're silencing the wrong people.
Jonathan Turley, thanks for joining us today as this debate continues. Hot and heavy here. Thanks so much.
Thanks.
Drop it! Come on! Don't take it down!
You heard her, right? Drop it, get moving. This stunning video shows passengers escaping that plane that flipped on the runway in Toronto. The man who shot the video coming out of that plane will join us live. His experience firsthand. Plus, a controversial comparison. An MSNBC analyst saying that Doge is the federal government equivalent of the botched withdrawal from Afghanistan. Try that on for size. Spectator's Ben Domenech will react. He's got some thoughts when we continue.